Back in 2021, Dr. Dre finalized his divorce from Nicole Young for around $100 million. According to divorce papers, Dr. Dre is worth around $450 million. So some people say he is very lucky because a lot of times in these divorce cases with people with money, they have to give up half their money, especially in California. Now, I don't agree in every case that a woman deserves half, but in this situation, she was worth every penny. And I'm going to tell you why. So hear me out and you can tell me if I'm wrong. The two met back in the mid-1990s when she was working as a lawyer and was still married to NBA player Sedale Threatt. Rumor has it that during this time, Dr. Dre wrote her a romantic letter asking her to leave her husband and be with him. So after she divorced Sedale, she married Dr. Dre in 1996. Now this is an important year. Remember, 1996, they got married. And at the time, Dr. Dre was co-owner of Death Row Records with his business partner, Suge Knight. They built Death Row into a music powerhouse with a roster of Dr. Dre himself, Snoop Dogg, Tupac, the Dog Pound, and many more. But even with all this success, Dr. Dre wasn't happy at Death Row, and he wanted to leave. Suge had hired a lot of gang members from his neighborhood, and Death Row became a violent place to work. Producers and artists got beat up many times. Suge Knight changed. He started off a good record executive, but ended up being an executive with a record. Like my grandma used to say, if you hang out with 9 dummies, sooner or later you'll be the 10th dummy. And to make things worse, Suge had a relationship and a child with R&B singer Michel'le, who already had a child with Dr. Dre. So can you imagine how Dr. Dre felt? Not only is my business partner running the label into the ground, he's also sleeping with my baby mama, and everybody knows it. This man was at a low point in his life. He stopped going into Death Row Studios, and he officially left Death Row in 1996 because of creative differences. Sad part, he left Death Row with nothing, zilch, nada. This man helped create and was co-owner of a $300 million company and left with nothing. And people criticized him for that. He took a lot of heat for that. And who was there supporting him at this time? His wife, Nicole. That same year, Dr. Dre started his own company, Aftermath. It became very successful. With his albums, Aftermath Presents Chronic 2001, he had artists like Eminem and 50 Cent. He was making better decisions. Then in 2006, he and record executive Jimmy Iovine started a headphone company called Beats. In 2014, Beats sold for over $3 billion to Apple, making Dr. Dre a multi-millionaire many times over. He was making very good business decisions, and he was getting every penny that was owed to him. Now, you think it's a coincidence that since his lawyer wife was in his life, he's running a successful company, making deals where he's getting the lion's share of the pot? It wasn't always like that. I mean, Dr. Dre always been a great producer, a hard worker, and a studio junkie. But he didn't always make the best business decisions. Let's take a look at some of his choices he made before 1996. Back in the 1980s, Dre was part of a rap group called NWA on Ruthless Records. The group became one of the biggest rap groups of its time. And Dr. Dre, he was producing most of the music. However, he wasn't getting the money he deserved. The CEO, Eazy-E, and Jerry Heller was getting all the money. Dr. Dre had signed a bad contract. I mean, it was so bad when Suge Knight used force to get Dr. Dre out of his Ruthless Records contract to start Death Row, Eazy-E was still getting paid for any work Dr. Dre did on Death Row. The man had made bad decisions that left him with nothing. His personal life choices wasn't great either. He had 5 kids with 5 different women. At the 1990 Grammy Awards, he allegedly attacked a female rapper, Terry B., who was a label mate of his. He allegedly punched her twice. She said they told her to drop the charges or they would never release any of her albums. In 1991, he punched TV host Dee Barnes, and Dee Barnes sued him. What happened allegedly was he picked her up by her hair, began slamming her head against a brick wall. I'm not trying to rehash all this stuff. I'm just trying to show you the type of decisions he was making before 1996. It didn't stop there. In 1992, he was in a hotel brawl in New Orleans. Also, that same year, he was convicted of battery for assaulting a producer. And then he did it again. He assaulted another producer and ended up back in court. In 1994, he was sentenced to 8 months in jail for leading the police on a chase when they tried to stop him for drinking and driving. I mean, even with all his talents, Dr. Dre was headed towards prison or death. In 2015, Michel'le came out and said during their 6-year relationship that Dr. Dre abused her. He would hit her often. He once broke her nose and cracked her ribs. And he did not deny any of this. He issued an apology in 2015, expressing sorrow to all the women he hurt, claiming he is a different man now. And I believe him. I believe he has changed, because we didn't hear a lot of drama about him during his marriage to Nicole. See, a lot of young men out there, they see these big name celebrities going through these divorces, and when the woman is trying to get what is hers, you hear people say, well, she didn't make any beats. She didn't make any jump shots. She didn't score any touchdowns. There's a lot of people out there with special talents that don't always make good decisions in their personal life or business, and they need a good support system. To me, it's apparently that Dr. Dre had one. I mean, because this man changed his life. I mean, before 1996, Dr. Dre was a hot mess. During the whole time he was married to Nicole, he was never arrested. We didn't hear a whole bunch of personal drama. He was running a successful record company, and he made over $500 million. And let's not forget the most important thing. She helped raise 2 beautiful kids with him. So it's good that he settled, because a lot of these celebrity divorces can last a long time. Many of them go on for years and years and years. But you settling after an 18-month battle, and right before you getting ready to do the Super Bowl halftime show, the biggest stage hip hop has ever been on, that was a great decision. You don't want that lingering over you, because you can get that Super Bowl bump. You can get it back. People who perform at the halftime Super Bowl show always get a bump in their career. Now, did Jay-Z ask him to do that? Because it was a great decision to do. Or maybe you learned a few things from your ex-wife.